Hello students, today we'll discuss about the development experiences of India, Pakistan and China. If we look at the formation of these three countries, India was formed on 15th August 1947 after India got independence from Great Britain. A day earlier, Pakistan was given the independence by the colonial master on 14th August 1947. If we look at China's history, then China was not ruled by any Western power, but it went through transition of power from the rule of dynasties starting from Shang dynasty to Zhao dynasty to Han dynasty to Qing dynasty. In 1912, the Qing dynasty was thrown out of power and Republic of China came into being under the rule of Kuomintang party. Then came the civil war in China between the nationalists, the Kuomintang party and the communists. And this civil war ultimately resulted in the ousting of the Kuomintang party, and the Chinese Communist Party captured power in mainland China, and the nationalists, they retreated to Chinese Taipei, or what we know as Taiwan. So the formation of China as People's Republic of China from Republic of China happened on 1st October 1949. After independence or after the formation of the government in these countries, what we call the rule of the people of the country, India adopted a mixed economic approach. So was the case with Pakistan, whereby both these countries decided to give specific roles to public sector and the private sector to lead the economy to a higher level of economic growth and development. But in China, the Chinese Communist Party decided to have communism or statism. So state became supreme in political, social and economic matters. Highly centralized approach, whereby the Chinese Communist Party or its different agencies decided about different political matters and economic matters to guide the economy to what Karl Marx said, dictatorship of the proletariat. Soon after the formation of the independent countries, India and Pakistan had inward-looking approach. Meaning is, both these countries decided to carry out different economic activities for faster economic growth and development through public sector investment and through domestic investment and entrepreneurship. These countries did not look for foreign investments, foreign entrepreneurs and foreign technology to lead the economy to the next level. Even China had the same kind of strategy, and we can understand in the initial years the country is more concerned about bringing administrative, political and economic structure built by own people, own ethos, own energy and resources. So all the three countries had inward-looking approach in the initial decades of economic journey. The public sector dominated economy, though brought many positive results, but at the same time all the three economies started realizing the negative sides of too much domination of the public sector in different economic activities. And hence these countries started realizing the need for reforms, the need for changes to reap larger benefits from different economic activities. And this realization started creeping into the minds of the policymakers, decision makers by 1980s. And I'm talking about all the three countries. Of course, China was slightly ahead of India and Pakistan in bringing the changes, or what we call reforms, the changes for the positive results. India had to abandon the inward-looking approach or the public sector-led growth and development in 1991. It had to abandon because of the loopholes, the drawbacks, the pitfalls of too much of domination of the public sector. The capitalist believers and many neutral critics also find that government has no business to be in business. It's very, very difficult for a government to run business on business principles, on business merits, because business is run on profit motive, whereas government is run on welfare motive. And there is a contradiction of business being run by the government. So there are certain issues, certain difficulties that any government in any part of the world will face. And these problems arose also in India and Pakistan during the 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s, culminating into the economic crisis in India in 1991 and slightly earlier in Pakistan. And it brought the economic reforms both in India and Pakistan. So the liberalization, privatization, globalization policy of India in 1991 was outward looking, was integrative, in the sense that it wanted to liberalize the economy, it wanted to privatize the economy, and it wanted to link Indian economy with the rest of the world so as to benefit from capital, technology, and entrepreneurship that are available in different parts of the world. So was the case in Pakistan. In 1988, Pakistan had to bring structural economic reforms under the guidance of the IMF. IMF also played a key role in India's economic reform programs of 1991. Whereas China gradually realized that public sector investment is not good enough to bring large scale changes in the economy, and particularly given the fact that population of China was rapidly rising. So it needed to bring more incomes, more resources to support the ever-growing population, and also to satisfy the need of the dispensation to establish China as one of the superpowers. So in 1978, China abandoned the path of the pure Marxist economic policy and invited investments and technological collaborations with the companies of the Western world, Europe and North America. The system, which was termed by the Chinese policymakers as a socialist market economy, China stated that it would allow the market economy to operate in China by giving space to the private sector. In pure communist policy, that is not permissible, because everything has to be guided by the government for the welfare of the people. But due to the loopholes of pure communist policy and its realization by the Chinese policymakers during 50s, 60s, 70s, it decided to give space to market economy, but it said it's a socialist market economy whereby the market would work to benefit the society. There is, of course, a question mark that how well a market economy can work for raising the welfare of the people. 1991 India, 1988 Pakistan. If we look at the reforms measures and we look at the thrust, the push given by the governments in these two countries, then in India it's a case of reforms, halt reforms. Because from 1991 we did not see second generation reforms which the Indian economy was looking for to give better results. Some reforms like in the banking sector, GST, etc. have come but as a piecemeal measures. During the last 3-4 years we have seen some positive changes happening in the Indian economy, some policy changes, some law changes to give that space, that freedom to the private sector to grow and take India to the next level. So reforms require political will, strong political will. It's always difficult to bring changes. There are certain side effects, and a government that is ready to take the hit, which can result in loss of votes, can only bring reforms. In Pakistan, the critics say in terms of reforms, in terms of outward approach, it's one step forward and 2 steps backward kind of situation. It's not start-stop kind of situation like it happened in India. It's rather 1 step forward, 2 steps backward, and it means that there is no political consensus in Pakistan in terms of initiating and implementing various economic reform measures. Whereas in China, where the Communist Party rules, it could put a sustained effort in its policy towards socialist market economy. Democracy is considered by many as the best form of political system, but it has certain drawbacks too. Bringing that political consensus in a large country like India or even in Pakistan is difficult. That's where China has the advantage. There are certain drawbacks of the communist rule too, particularly the freedom, choice, liberty, etc. that many analysts point out too. But in terms of advantage, once it decides the policy, once it decides the goal, it can give all energy, all resources to achieve that goal. And that's where China marched ahead of India and Pakistan in terms of economic prosperity. And that part we'll see in the next presentation. Furthermore, when we look at the economic reforms in India, it covered the entire economy, but more specifically the industries. With regard to privatization, with regard to liberalization, we saw industry-specific changes. So was the case in Pakistan. Whereas in China, the initial efforts were to decentralize the agriculture, to bring prosperity in the agriculture sector. Then the focus shifted to foreign investment and technology collaboration. And this move of China gave the Chinese economy a headway and brought many significant changes in Chinese economy during 1990s and the first 2 decades of the 21st century. The corona pandemic has again disturbed the world economic order, and it will be interesting to see how the world economy and the powers in it shape up post-pandemic. Please join me in my next presentation to see the economic effects of the reform measures in India, Pakistan and China and their current economic state of affairs. Thank you for joining.